get started, how many of you have a mental condition, bipolar or depression or something? And then how many of you are here because you love and support somebody who does? So does that mean the rest of you just want to know why we act this way? Well, I really want you to laugh at my jokes, so thank you. But also there's a real serious part. When I say something funny, it wasn't just to be funny, it was to make a point. Because it's really how we act that is the issue. Does it really matter if I'm hallucinating right now and I see twice as many people here as that are actually here? Or is it because I act that way and it makes everybody nervous? Does it really matter that I'm manic and I haven't slept in a few days? Or is it because I act in a manner that upsets people and makes them uncomfortable with their lives? Does it really matter if I'm depressed? Or does it matter that I act in a way that is harmful to me and the people around me? So I believe that it's our actions towards ourselves and towards others that's the real issue. You know, everybody wants to talk about stigma. How many people have heard somebody talk about stigma? You know, we're all concerned that people don't understand what it's like to have a condition. And we have people running around talking about, let's try to stop the stigma. Let's try to tell everybody what it's like. Let's educate people and let them understand that I have a very serious mental condition. It's an illness. And sometimes they talk about there's a brain chemistry that's causing it, and we're not capable of controlling ourselves, so you have to excuse our behaviors. And you have to accept that we can never live as good of a life as most people. And because of our illness, we have to accept kind of a diminished life. We have to live in fear that if I ever get a little bit manic, I'm going to flip out. And if I ever get a little bit depressed, I'm going to spiral into depression and probably kill myself. And this is very, very serious because some say 40% of us actually try to. And strangely enough, they think half of us succeed. How could they call success killing ourselves? I think half of us fail. But it's a very serious issue, and it's really important that people are out there trying to educate and trying to break that stigma. But if you think about it, there's another part of that that is actually doing us tremendous harm. They're convincing us that we're not capable. They're telling us that we have a mental illness and it's caused by chemistry and we can't overcome it, and we're not capable of ever living as good of a life as normal people. And that's hurting us because we accept that. We accept that we're not capable of actually living a great life because a lot of us are running around telling people that we can't. And I see that as a great harm. I see that as hurting us. If anybody's telling us that we cannot accomplish greatness in our lives, if they're telling us that we cannot manage our condition and live a great life, and we're accepting that, we're buying into that argument that it's not possible, then we have created something in our lives that is going to ruin us. It's going to make us live the rest of our lives in tremendous fear of not being able to do something about it. We also have a lot of people that are in a type of a therapy that I call avoidance therapy. We don't want to understand what's going on. We just want to make sure it never happens. We want to never have any symptoms for the rest of our lives, and we want to live in fear that if we ever get outside of that narrow range, we're going to flip out. And sure enough, when we get outside of that range, what happens? We flip out because we've never been taught how to manage it. We've never been taught that we could have a level of awareness that makes it work for us. And that's the hard part about the stigma issue, is it's important that we educate people, but it's just as important that we educate ourselves and we understand that it is possible to live a fabulous life. And that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about this condition that we have. Yes, there are ways of calling it an illness, and it's a very serious thing, But this condition also has some good parts. They've got some lessons. They've got some important parts of life that we can live at a level beyond normal people. We can have a fabulous life once we learn how to get it under control. Once we learn what we're dealing with, and we get the help necessary to make it happen. So I'm here to tell us that we can have a fabulous life. This condition isn't necessarily going to make it worse. As a matter of fact, when we confront our condition, it's going to make it better. We might get to a point in all of our lives where we say, I am glad I have this condition. This condition has enhanced my life and it has taught me so many wonderful things. And that's the point that I'm currently at, and I know a lot of other people that have gotten there. And what I'm going to talk about is how do we get there? The way we get there is pretty clear. We have to accept this is who I am. We have to accept that I do have a condition. I can't be in denial. I can't be thinking that nothing wrong with me, I'm perfectly normal, when my behavior is showing otherwise. And not only my behavior towards others, but the way I treat myself. When I'm living a life that's not working, and I'm denying that there's something wrong with me, I'm never going to get better. I'm going to get worse. So we have to accept that I have a condition that has these influences. It's making me do things. It's making me see the world differently. If it's hallucinating, I have to admit that I hallucinate. I do. So when I talk about all of this stuff, some of you are going to think I'm crazy, which is true. I am bipolar 1, which means I have extreme manias and extreme depressions. It also means I'm what they call schizoaffective, which means I hallucinate. So officially, I'm a crazy person, but that doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. I also have a rich experience in life that, for myself and for a lot of people who know what I'm talking about, is kind of proof that it is possible to have this condition and live a fabulous life. It's very possible. But the beginning of that path is to come to acceptance and admit, this is what I have. I have a tendency for my moods to get elevated, and I recognize that as my mood gets elevated, I start acting differently towards other people and towards myself, and sometimes I lose control of myself. I have to admit that. I also have to admit that sometimes I go into depressions that are a lot worse than normal people go through. And I have these experiences. I have to admit that I've got that. Now, what I choose to do with that is an entirely different matter, but the first thing I have to do is I have to face it. I have to admit that I hallucinate. I have to admit that sometimes those hallucinations confuse me. Sometimes it bothers me that all the trees are shaking out there and changing colors. Sometimes it confuses me that I see somebody while I'm driving down the street, and when I get to them, they're not even there. And sometimes that confuses me, and I have to face that. I have to accept that this is what I have. But on the other hand, I also have to accept the possibility that I can grow to become stronger than that. I can grow to have it under control. So acceptance is both, I have to face who I really am, and I have to love myself the way I am, but I also have to accept that it's possible to live a great life. And that's where that stigma thing comes in. If people have me accepting that there's something wrong with me, but also accepting that it's not possible to turn it around and make a good life out of it, I'm not really accepting the possibilities. I'm denying the possibility of having a great life. And I end up not living as good of a life as I could have.